Okay, are you ready to embrace aging with vitality and purpose? Welcome to Essential Wellness, the podcast dedicated to empowering women to live their best lives at any age and every age. Join us each week as we explore the secrets to living and aging well with insightful conversations on health, wellness, and finding meaning in midlife and beyond. We'll dive into topics like stress management, hormone balance, power of movement, and cultivating resilience, and much, much more. Get ready to be inspired by transformative stories, expert advice, and practical tips you can implement right away. Let's dive in. So today we have Kellie Lupsha, and she is a high performance health coach calling in from Indianapolis. Welcome, Kellie. Thank you so much for joining me today on the show.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about you and what you do. I'd love to hear, and I'm sure the audience would love to hear as well.
Yes, always a journey, right? It's kind of fun as we're aging that we can always have this beautiful full life. So a little bit about me. I have been a physical therapist for the past 30 years, which that's kind of hard to say. And absolutely loved my passion, loved really helping people. I was always a scholar athlete. My dad really wanted me to go to pursue medicine. And I just had this inclination of like a little more deeper dive of hands-on clients, helping them with their story a little bit more. And so I thought, honestly, I would go into sports medicine
Mhm.
because I was an athlete myself. And as I went through school and I had my internships, I just fell in love with the whole field of rehabilitation and helping people to truly get their lives back from such traumatic events of having a traumatic brain injury or a stroke, after brain cancer, or even just people with concussions that get overlooked because people just think you look fine, but these concussion symptoms last for so long. There's a lot under to, uncover. And it's been such a gift. So I've been able to run hospitals, and my husband and I have had our own practice in California that we just closed down a year ago. And I used to also travel all around the world teaching other therapists to do the same. So such a gift. And now just, as I found, and we'll get into more a little bit later, as I was kind of moving into my 40s and into 50s, and now I'm 52, but I really realized about 10, 12 years ago that the hustle and grind that I thought I just had to do to prove myself, do it all, be it all, wasn't going to serve me as I was, really getting older. So I kind of, some ahas started happening to start to pivot in my life.
Wow. Yes. I mean, I always say that's one of the gifts of midlife. It's kind of gives you a chance to kind of reassess where you're at, what you want, what your values are and how you want to live the rest of your life. So, sounds like
Truly.
it's kind of what happened.
I think when people think of aging, especially very, very much so in the United States, we think of somebody getting older and elderly and maybe being in a wheelchair or a nursing home.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to redefine aging. Like, that's not okay, right? And when we're hitting these ages, we should actually be able to feel fabulous and thrive.
Hmm.
But what is this stickiness? And I think because things are common, and a lot of us women chat about how what we feel, so we all think it's normal. It's not normal, it's just common.
Yes, yes. So many women just sort of, just explain it off saying this is just me getting older. And that is not the narrative that we should be telling ourselves, right?
Exactly, exactly. But I think there hasn't been enough role models of women out there that are demonstrating this, not just graceful aging, but like vitality-ful aging,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, when people are like, Kellie, what are you doing? Because I feel better today at 52, definitely than I did at 42.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get to that in a bit, but just share a little bit about what you're doing now in terms of I mean, you mentioned you were a physical therapist and that you closed down your practice. So how do you spend your days now?
Yeah. So, over the past kind of 10 years as I went through my transition, and again, we'll give a little deeper story here in a minute, I really realized that a lot of women were dealing with similar things. And people started asking me, wait, what did you say about that? What are you doing? And because they already trusted me with my background of health and wellness,
Mm-hmm.
it was this transition of, oh, I think I have another gift. I can take my skills that I had and I can start helping women. First, it was just in my areas. I was living in California and doing a lot of it was just kind of like, friends and neighborhood community.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, wow, I think as I look at my career and where I want to go, this is maybe now calling me on my heart because I started seeing way too many of my friends getting diagnoses of autoimmune and cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? Every woman needs to be able to know that they have more control than they think. So now I always say that it's no longer an option, but it's essential to take control of your health. And
Yes.
so I started doing women's coaching. And in this field of coaching, I also realized that anybody can be a coach. And so the term got thrown around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I've done for myself, which I've love and feel like it's important, is always made personal development really a way of life. So I was always out there being that role model mindset, shining the light. So how could I bring this high performance behavior mindset into this women's health empowerment? And so then I just started this high performance women's coaching. And it's been fun because most people, honestly, they're looking for community. They need belief that somebody went before them that did it and that they can do it too. But also somebody that wants to, I can't say work hard because I don't really like the word hard, but
Mm-hmm.
wants to actually put forth effort and make their health a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's transitioned now to coaching. And I have partnered with a good doctor friend of mine who's a naturopath and a functional medicine doctor, Dr. Heidi Arasabal. She's out of Dallas, Texas. And we've partnered to have a membership because people want access to her and she's got a long waiting list. And she's like, I really don't want to just see more people. And all my people need support and coaching. How
Mm-hmm.
could we actually formulate something that people can get the best of both worlds and have together? So now we have a membership, women for women. It's a wellness collective, and it's just really lovely and it's thriving. And so, really trying to help women in that respect and live their best life, really so much like you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important to have that community because that's what kind of builds us up and kind of enables the connections and all the support that we need to be able to thrive and we can serve each other so well in a group.
We can. And you know what was over the past couple years, what became more and more apparent is I could give somebody and help them with their eating plan, their exercise plan, going over labs, even doing their like DNA work. But they kind of just what I realized that also missing component was belief in themselves that they could do it. That whatever like their family story was didn't have to be theirs. That the whole mindset part of all of this
Hmm.
was even bigger than I thought. And so now that's what I really love about this coaching is we really can't discount any part of who we are as this human being. And by collectively putting it all together, it's been even more powerful. And I think with your, research and study and longevity,
Hmm.
that community is one of the most powerful impacts of this longevity.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I mean, connections, and I think there's power in sort of seeing other people do, being successful in terms of making changes and getting inspired by that. There's a lot of power in that. So I feel like having a community of people around to cheer you on and to show that it is possible it's invaluable.
It really is. I mean, I just got off the phone before we were talking with an old friend of mine. I met this woman when our boys were young, playing like baseball together, so years ago. And
Mhm.
she just reached out and she said, Kelly, I know this wasn't overnight, but I just turned 50. So I feel like it happened to be overnight because now I'm like hyper aware because I hit the number.
Yeah.
Um, and she says, there's so much information out there, but
Mhm.
I know you. Like, help me in this little bit of brain fog, a little bit of like, she's a thin woman overall, but now has this like little muffin top, right? Can't get rid of
Mhm.
these little things. And she says, where do I even start?
Yes.
And I love that because somewhere in this journey, all of us finally say, okay, I'm ready. And instead of just listening to everything and anything out there, because I think we all can have the shiny object syndrome and think this will fix it, this will fix it, is like, you know what? Let me start to implement truly like some non-negotiables, right? To make
Yeah.
true train change.
Yeah, yeah, agree. And I think what you said about there being so much information out there is even is especially now with sort of AI, it's so true that like there's so much information out there. So women need more than just information. They need sort of support. They need, as you said, she said, where to start. Like they need a little bit of guidance and not to feel overwhelmed and not to know, like, no, you can kind of get caught up in, as you said, like this person's saying this person's saying that, or I read this, I read that, and it does become overwhelming. So it's really a sense of kind of just focusing on what's the most important thing to start with and having that person or people to help you and guide you to find your way.
You know, one thing that I found very interesting, and I really didn't see this, it wasn't standing out to me before,
Mhm.
is most of us, as we're like, you know, raising our families and potentially working, and we're all supposed to look very successful and put together in whatever fashion. And when women have to reach out and ask for help, because most of us are not very good at asking for help,
Mhm.
there's this shame that comes with it. Like, I should know how to take care of myself. I should know these things. So this window of shame opens up when they become vulnerable of, I need help. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, that's like so terrible to feel that. But that's what I see start happening is they don't want to ask for help.
Mhm.
Because I know for me, my whole life, I'm like, fine, fine, fine. I take care of it. Oh, I don't need you to help. I'll just do it. That was kind of me long ago. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, please help. How can I help? Give me help. But that's a big one.
Yeah. No, it's definitely very common, I think, in women just to sort of feel like they can do everything themselves without kind of really, asking for help or just acknowledging that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And really being honest because I think
Mhm.
whether it's learning a new skill, a new business, a new sport, we would always hire a professional to help. You
Mm.
know, you want to have something done in your house. If you don't know how to do it, you wouldn't do it. You'd ask for help or get a professional
Mhm.
in every other aspect of our life, but we don't do it for our own personal health and well-being. And I think just right now, it's starting to become not even okay and acceptable, but like as human beings, like it's okay. Like we should all
Mhm.
have coaches, whether it's a life coach, a doctor coach, like we should all be in something. What are
Yeah.
you in? What are you in? Right? We should have something in our lives for that wellness and well-being support.
Yeah, I agree. It should just be normalized and
Mhm.
accepted. So tell me a little bit, if you don't mind, sharing a little bit about your own story of transformation and what changes you made in midlife that have allowed you to feel your best.
Yes, I'm going to give you a few kind of pivotal points for me. And
Hmm.
it started initially, my aha was kind of, I'll say before midlife, because I was about 36. I was 36 when my dad actually died of cancer.
Mm.
And that's when I was like, wait, it wasn't in the family history. Why did he get it? What was he doing? And I started understanding lifestyle and stressors and toxins and how that could have been brought on more by him and not managing. It wasn't a very good guy managing his stress. So that just started like, okay. And starting reading about things. So I already was starting to like plant seeds because, of course, my kids were tiny and they really don't remember my dad. So I was then thinking, well, one day when my kids have kids, I want to be around, right?
Yeah.
Nothing really changed at that time, but my mind was a little open around that age. And when I hit 40, you know, kind of is just like one of those days that you wake up and it's just, you're not even thinking about how you want to feel for the day, what you want to do for the day, whose lives you want to bless for the day. I wasn't even thinking about how I felt. It was just get up, go, kids to school, get to work. I would pour all my energy and effort to all my clients, get home, take kids to soccer, get meals on the table, homework, repeat, do it all over again.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden I caught myself of like, I was emotionally just flat. I was just doing the daily stuff.
Mhm.
And I'd lost like the joy or even like feeling. And one day my husband calls, he was driving down to San Diego. And he's like, oh my gosh, there's the most beautiful sunset, like the colors, the this. And I was like, why are you calling me to tell me this? And I just realized like I'm not slowing down. I'm
Right.
not being present. I am missing out on all this beauty of life. So, and I was kind of having a few maybe little aches and pains, but I was just ignoring everything.
Mhm.
So I started reading books. I started listening to actually Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, wait, as a physical therapist, like I was exercising, but my exercise, I realized for me as an aging woman, wasn't serving me of anything. It was hurting me because I was like running, biking, all aerobic,
High
cycling,
cardio. Yeah.
cardio, right? Like I was burning out my adrenals. I was
Mhm.
all the things now I know.
Mhm.
So I was like, I think I need to reset. And little by little, I started changing my movement patterns. I started taking some time for myself. I started making time that when I was with the children, I would put other things away. So I would have, whether it was just 10 minutes with them, right? I was present with them.
Mhm.
Um, Before that, I'd had a moment that one of our kids was on the soccer field and I was on my phone, not paying attention. And she ended up wasn't really a collision, but pivoted and ended up blowing out her ACL. But I
Mhm.
didn't see it happen.
Mhm.
And I was like, what was I doing? Like I at the game, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm checking it off the list, but I wasn't
Physically there. Yeah.
present.
Mhm.
So a couple of those things happened, and I just realized that I saw what happened with my dad. I started to, you know, open that door. And then with those couple things, I'm like, wait, I don't have to do this. I'm choosing this. My life can be different. And so I started a very different path
Mhm.
and starting to put me first and say, nope, I'm going to take time. Before I would drop everything and do everything for everyone else. And I had to really release that wasn't serving me.
Mhm.
And then the second real part of my journey is I just decided I actually did my DNA because I was having just a few odd things, but nothing terrible, but some more aches and pains I thought I shouldn't have, a little maybe gut issues that weren't bad. I had just been living with them. I just thought it was normal. And I realized that I had pretty horrific genes,
Mhm.
but I did know that your genes don't define your fate, right? And one of the things I had is I have the celiac gene.
Mhm.
So when I can't say I completely changed my diet because I was never like a trans fat, fast food girl, but I still probably ate way too much bread and potatoes and carbs and things like that. And so when I took out not only gluten and dairy, then I really just started watching all refined sugars. It was like this next whole level of health. I'm like, oh my gosh, food is medicine. Was fueling me. So I think I just had these moments of time from rest and taking care of myself to changing my movement strategies, right? So now it's just like yoga and lifting and going for my walks.
Mhm.
And then food was probably one of the biggest needle movers.
Mhm.
And then, of course, little by little, right, there's all these extra things that we add in.
Mhm.
And as I went through that journey from really 40 to 50, it was just these layers kind of, it's never overnight. It's just one more thing, one more thing. Of course, this even like changing out your chemicals and your cleaning supplies and your makeup, right? Like eventually you go down the whole rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
in general, I think nobody can force things upon us because I know other people probably had told me things, but I'm like, nah, nah, nah.
Mhm.
You really have to either experience it or you have to be ready to make that change.
Totally. Yeah.
And then once you kind of make that decision, I was like, oh, I'm open. I'm open to anything. And then the very last part I will say, which I think everybody needs, is my husband and I together went through like a coaching program, and it was kind of like a life coaching program, and you could use it for business or marital or whatever. But when we were able to really get on the same page of our feelings, of our finances, of our life plan, I'm like, wow, like no one is young. I mean, at least for me, I was never taught to like have those dialogues as a young woman with your spouse. And
Yes.
that was like this whole nother level of life that I'm like, God, this feels so good.
Hmm.
And so I tell everybody, you should all have a therapist, a coach, a something. Because, I don't know. We're not meant to navigate this alone.
It's true. And yeah, what you bring up is like a common theme, I think, for women is like we don't give ourselves the chance or the opportunity to kind of really sit and think about all of these things and think about, well, what do we want? What do we want in terms
Yes.
of relationships, in terms of our like where do we want to be spending our money? Where, what do we want to be, how do we want to be spending our day? And just like having that chance to do that, it can transform your life in terms of then you can live more intentionally and, you're more in touch with your values and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah. If there was a time when I was going through that shift and I started then like blaming and shaming myself, like I should have spent more time with the kids. Why didn't I do this or everything? And I would just say to everybody out there is we're all doing the best we can with what we know at the time.
yes, I love
And
that.
I know now, right? But my children are like, Mom, we love that you work. We love that you're a striver. We love like we never felt neglected. We never felt you put us on the back burner just because you weren't like PTA president or in our classroom every day.
Hmm.
That's okay. And I was like, oh gosh, because there's this comparativeness I think all of us as women do,
Yes.
like, oh, I should do more. Or why didn't I make the cute little bows for the girl's hair like that mom did? I mean, just the silliest things.
Yeah.
But all that over time in the energy and effort of this comparative, it
Hmm.
just destroys us as who we are authentically.
Totally true. Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. That's one of my favorite quotes as well.
Yes.
I say that to myself all the time. You have to remind yourself constantly because I think our brains just automatically go there, right? So,
Yeah, one of the mentors I follow, she always says, we see so much further with our eyes closed.
mhm,
So when we're usually in comparison mode, it's because of something we're seeing, right? Their
mhm,
lifestyle, their thing, their cute hair, but if you can like let all that go, really behind closed doors, we have no idea what other
no
people's
idea.
lives are like and all the things. So
Hmm.
there's just there's no need to compare because there's space for all of us at every level.
Hmm.
So we've created this comparison thing when honestly it just shouldn't exist.
Yeah, 100%. And I love also what you were saying earlier about how you, when you went from 40 to 50 and you just constantly added layers and just the idea that you don't have to do everything at once, that you can kind of try one thing and then, okay, that's working. Now I'll add something else and just kind of gradually kind of up level your health and well-being. So,
Yeah.
that's
And it's so interesting because here I am now 52. So now my thing is what do I want to be like at 60, right? Like these 10-year intervals, because what we do today was going to show up and matter in like 10 years from now.
right.
So, how vibrant and active, and what do I want to be able to do? So, if that's what I want to do, I better be doing the things to support that in 10 years,
Right.
right?
Totally. Yeah, I love that. So, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely. It's always like, it used to be harder to share. It gets easier and easier to share. And I think there's so many women out there that can relate to at least one of the things I said, right? And if it
Sure.
just is one of those things, then maybe they're ready to start making that one change in their life.
Yeah, agree. And I think you're right. I mean, again, what you said in terms of like it has to come first from within. Like you have to be ready to make that change. Like it doesn't matter what people are telling you. It has to kind of come from within. So if we can kind of reach women and just allow them to know that there's possibility out there, that's all it will take, right? And then for
Exactly.
them to start on their journey.
Yep. And to have, I mean, thankfully, you have your platform, right? Like on my podcast of another place for women to understand they belong.
Yeah, exactly. So before we kind of close off, is there any sort of, piece of advice or any piece of wisdom you want to share with the listeners about,
Yeah. Yeah. Some closing. I'll say give yourself grace along the way. That is for sure, right? Like we have to be in this as it's a journey, and grace is going to help carry us because we're going to have good days and bad days, but there's no really good or bad. It just is. And then we learn from it and we move forward every single day. And if you can just pick one or two things that become your non-negotiables, like last year at the beginning of the year, I ran a challenge and we just called it the 1, 2, 3 challenge, that in the morning, if you can take, drink 12 to 16 ounces of water very first thing to like replenish, rehydrate, right? Like if you just left that glass of water out there, you've just nourished yourself like from the beginning. If you can just do 5 minutes of some sort of movement, a couple stretches, stand on your vibe plate. Like I'm not talking about going to the gym or anything, just a little movement,
Mm-hmm.
and then give your mind some movement, right? Like ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? Whose life do I want to bless today? You don't need to do a 30-minute meditation, or, if you're into prayer, if you want to journal, you can do what you want, but find that 5 minutes that you
Mm-hmm.
can do something to start your mind right. And if you did those three things, we did them for 30 days, um, it will then become this non-negotiable. And the empowerment of that is you just built self-trust and self-confidence with yourself because you honored yourself. You did it. And once we start honoring ourselves with, no, this 10 minutes is my time
Mm-hmm.
and I'm choosing me, it's like such a win that will go, oh, these are now, I just do this every day. What's my next thing?
Mm-hmm.
But I think too many of the time we take on this goal that's just way too high. And if you don't keep up that motivation, which most of us motivation waxes and wanes way too much, then of course we just falter. And then we're like, oh, forget about it. I'll pick something else next year, next month.
Mm-hmm.
Is just a little, I would encourage you guys to take just 1 or 2 baby steps of what am I going to build into a non negotiable for me every day to honor me and build my own self esteem and self worth.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think what you said is important. Just pick something that you know that you can do. So something simple and easy that you know you can do to in order to build that trust in yourself and to cheer yourself on.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, absolutely. And then, I would love to welcome any of your guests if they're looking for a community that they don't have right now or they feel like they need more support. The membership that we do offer for your guests, we'd love to have them come check us out for a whole dollar. We'll give them a discount code that they can join us and kind of dip their toe in and see if like, oh, these are some people I'd like to hang out with, or I've never talked to a functional medicine doctor before. I would really like some advice. And wow, this is interesting. It's just trying to provide opportunities for women to have access where maybe they don't have a functional medicine doctor, or maybe they can't afford a $500 consultation with one, that they can have access for everyone.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I will definitely share that in the show notes. And before we sign off, just maybe share how people can connect with you or find out more about you. I'll link it as well, but if you want to tell the
Thank
audience.
you. I think the easiest place you'll find me most of the time is over on Instagram. So my name, Kellie Lupsha, because it's a little bit unusually spelt.
Mhm.
It's easy to find. I'm the only one. So at Kellie Lupsha. You can also find me hanging out over in my podcast, which is Thriving in Midlife, Redefining Aging. So happy to have you over there joining on the podcast. And if you want to check out any of my other programs, you can look at me over at the website, which is also kellylupsha.com.
Great. Well, thank you again. It's been so wonderful to speak with you, and thanks for sharing your story.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.